with Katie Mae. I am going to be making a corn chowder today along with smoky tempeh bits. So very, very tasty. Let me know in the comments if you can hear me okay. I'm just chopping up my potatoes, dicing them to get them nice and small so you don't have to wait for me to chop all these. Let me know where you're joining us from in the comments. We are here in Paulsville. That's where I am, in Washington, and it's kind of an overcast day, and tomorrow is going to be rainy, lots of rain. So I wanted to make something warm, a summertime dish, but something warm, good for a rainy day. And so I was thinking corn chowder would be fantastic. So hope you guys are excited about this recipe too. Like I said, I'm chopping up potatoes. We're just doing these small diced potatoes. I'll show you this last one I do here. The weather's going to be gorgeous this weekend though, super sunny, so I'm excited about that. And you might have heard in my email this morning that I am going to be with Chef AJ on Saturday. So if you haven't subscribed to Chef AJ's channel on YouTube, definitely check that out. We will be making a Caribbean meal, so it's going to be really tasty. Hope you guys can join us there too, 11 a.m. on Saturday. But today we're doing this recipe. Let me show you what we've got here. We are making a creamy potato corn chowder. So rather than just the corn or just a simple potato soup, I wanted to do a mixture, combining them, because the soups are so similar overall. And of course you can take it in a lot of different directions, but today we're going to be doing, let's zoom in here for you. Oh, there we go. So onion, celery, potatoes, garlic, corn, of course, some bell pepper, and I'm going to show you how you can make this with the cashews and without cashews if you want to do no nuts. Nutritional yeast is an option, and our spices: thyme, smoked paprika, black pepper, cayenne pepper, and some chives to finish it off. So let's get started on the stovetop. Actually, before which one first? Before we go into the corn chowder, I want to show you our smoky tempeh bits here. 8 ounces of tempeh, which is basically 1 package of tempeh, the apple cider vinegar, liquid smoke, miso, dates, and black pepper. So I want to get this in the oven first. So let me switch back here. We have, oh. All right, basically what I've done is put all my ingredients to this recipe into the blender, and then I'm missing one little thing. Oh, here. All right, still getting used to my new kitchen here. You know. Anyways, the tempeh, I first steamed up the tempeh. So you want to cook this tempeh on the stovetop, either steam it or saute it in some water so that it doesn't have the bitterness that can come with tempeh. Some people don't notice it, but just to be safe, it's better to definitely cook the tempeh with a little bit of water first. If you were just gonna serve the tempeh by steaming it, you wouldn't need to cook it in water first, because the cooking method you're doing is using water. But if it ever is going to go into the oven or just be baked or grilled, then you want to steam it first with water so that you have a little more or a little less bitterness. Okay, so I did that with the tempeh, and then I blended up the marinade in the blender, and I added apple cider vinegar and a little bit of liquid smoke. You've got the recipe for this, and the recipe is in the description. If you're not on our email list, you'll find it there. Just half a teaspoon of liquid smoke, and people always wonder what this is. It's condensed smoke, literally. So it doesn't seem like the healthiest thing, but we're adding such a small amount, and it makes a huge difference in the flavor. So You can find this online too. Stubbs is a good brand, good quality, but it actually has just a little bit of sugar in it, cane sugar, but again, we're using half a teaspoon. So I just say the sugar doesn't matter. You can find it without sugar, but it's actually not as high of a quality as this brand. So not that one. You can then add a sweetener of your choice. It could be either dates, 2 dates, or maple syrup if you want to. We're kind of making like an alternative to bacon, right? Smokey, tempeh, and the maple syrup is going to lend to more of a bacon flavor, just the idea of breakfast, right? So if you want to do that, you can, or you can use the dates, medjool dates, or any dates, deglet dates, 2 medjool or 3 or 4 deglet dates. And then your water. That's basically it. You put all of that into a blender, and black pepper as well. And so blend it all up, and then you take the tempeh from the stove top where you steamed it and marinate it in that liquid. And you want to let it sit for ideally an hour or longer if you have the time. But if you only have half an hour, then do that. And then we're going to put this tempeh onto a baking tray. So let's pull out our tray here. I was just pre-warming it. We're going to put this tempeh into the oven at 350, and we want to slow cook it so it gets brings out all of that moisture and dehydrates it. If you had a dehydrator or wanted to do this at a lower temperature, you could. It's just going to take a little bit longer. Okay, so we have I'm going to use little tongs here. Our tempeh, we're just going to put on this tray. And you can cook the tempeh in the air fryer as well. It gets crispy, but I want to dehydrate it more. So I like doing, you could do this in a lot of air fryer machines as well, doing it at a lower temperature for a longer period of time, and then kicking up the temperature after it's been dehydrated. So you get it crispy after you've removed the water. So here I'm going to do 350 for half an hour, and then if we could put it into our air fryer after that for a higher temperature. And the reason I don't start it in the air fryer that I have here is the air fryer is a Milthy, which is basically the Instant Pot with the Milthy lid, and it's not big enough to fit all of this tempeh. So, all right. And this is great liquid too, this marinade. You can use it again and again. Well, not too many times, but you could definitely reuse that to cook this or marinate something else in the next couple days. All right, we'll put this in the oven. Oh, my bad. This whole time you weren't seeing this, but we will do that differently next time. So, into the oven. Yeah. So you guys know how it is if you have ever moving a lot. It's kind of throws you off your game for a bit till you get readjusted. So we have in the Instant Pot here, Leslie, the air fryer, the Breville air fryer, my past partner, still a love of mine, but anyways, John McMahon has the air fryer at his place in Pismo Beach. So I don't have that. I have to order another one, but I've got the Milthy air fryer for now. All right, so here I have my onion and celery. I'm going to put this right into the pan I have here on the stove top. We've got, let's move this forward a bit. Our pan here, we'll turn this up to medium high heat. Now in it goes our onion and celery. No water added. I'm just going to make sure we put the lid on and then stir it occasionally. All of the juices from the vegetables are going to be enough to keep that pan moist. Yes, Leslie, yes. Sadly. But we're still great, great, great friends. I'm going to visit next weekend. So next up we have our potatoes. Let me show you our cutting board here. We have, like I said, these potatoes diced up in small pieces. If you cook them, if you cut them larger, they're just going to take a lot longer to cook. So my way of cutting these potatoes this size is to go down the center of my potato, holding it together on both sides. And you got to be careful with your fingers here, paying attention, and then down on the one side and again on the other side. So you have 4 pieces here, and then depending on your skill, you could do the same thing in an opposite direction, but I'd recommend for most people just to split it down and go in one direction and then turn it in the other. So, and I'm gonna pull up these sleeves so my knife doesn't get caught there. All right, and then turning these. So we want small pieces. Consistent size is important so that you don't have some being overcooked and some being undercooked. And we can add our potatoes right to our pot here. Ooh, like this. The potatoes are going to need more time to cook, of course, than the onion and celery, but there's no reason we can't get them started soon. Now, they're going to take the longest to cook out of everything, so it's wise to get them on the stovetop as soon. Next up is our garlic here. I have this garlic already minced, and I just used this little twister. It's called a garlic twist, Next Trend, and it you just put it on top here without the water in it, just garlic cloves, and twist it up and then separate it. And the easiest way to get the garlic out of here is just to pour a little bit of water in and then pour it into your dish. Okay, this one over there. So I'm just going to dump that all in there. And then we're going to add in our spice. So this recipe, we're doing thyme, smoked paprika. Yep. Oh wait, was there? And not adding. I'm gonna wait to add the spices to the blender. So let's just stir this up. Let's go back to our recipe, show you. We've got, that's the tempeh bits. There we go. So our creamy potato corn chowder. I just did the onion, celery, potatoes, garlic, and now for the corn. Lorna says she's cutting her fingers more, needs to pay attention to, and working with a sharper knife. It's important to work with that sharper knife though, and building your skills in order to not cut yourself. So I'm glad you have a sharp knife, but yes, keep paying attention and practicing. What am I doing? You know, I just got a knife sharpener that I think if you guys are looking for an easy knife sharpener, everyone's always asking me how you sharpen your knives, and I'm like, you know, it depends on the knife, but this one actually works on even serrated knives. It's called AccuSharp, and it's just a little handheld one, and I really love it because of how light it is, and it can fit really easily in my utensil drawer or where I keep my knives. and it travels well. So this is fantastic. You just, let me show you. Grab a clean knife here. Oh, protective gloves are helpful, but they might slow you down at the same time. So that's something to consider. The more you can practice, the better, of course. And that's not hard to do when we're eating a plant-based diet with all the plants we have. So this sharpener here, you hold it in your hand like this, and then you just put your knife. I think that there's different ways you could do this, but I think the easiest way is to put the knife down on the table with a flat surface on the board, and then going from one end to the tip. And you just do that 5 times or so, and it's great. So no matter the size of your knife, whether it's a flat edge like this or serrated, it will work just fine. So the AccuSharp is great. All right, and then you want to rinse that knife, of course, before using it, because you have the metal pieces on the knife, so that's important. Okay, now our corn. So it's not corn season like I thought it was. Well, I guess it's the end of corn season, kind of. Not really, but when you're in Washington and you don't have a lot of fresh corn, all of the organic corn that we had here was used up, at least where the market where I am. So I was really disappointed. I thought I was going to have organic corn on the cob for this recipe, and then I went to the store and there was no organic corn. But I wanted to show you, and that's important because organic means it's non-GMO. We do not want GMO food, and corn is one of the foods that is 95% of it is GMO, if not more than that. And so it's really important to buy organic for your own health and to support the farmers as well. So I'm going to stir my pot here. We'll show you what this looks like. Remember, no water added. So all that moisture from the vegetables kept the pan moist enough so nothing's sticking on the bottom. But it is important to stir it, otherwise it would have started sticking, browning, and eventually burning. So keep that in mind. I'm going to turn down the heat, and we're going to add our corn in just a minute. Okay. Before we do that, though, I wanted to show you. Yes, if you are on my email list, you get the recipes that we do for this class every Thursday. Sometimes I don't have it quite ready for you in the morning, but it'll come usually by the showtime. And if you are not on the email list, there's a link in the description to get on the list, and there's a link directly to the recipes there. So our corn here, just take off all these little guys, and I know there's a couple different tricks you could do for this. I've heard, I'm blanking on them now, running them under water, boiling it first and then taking it out of the boiling water, and all these little things are mostly gone. All the little hairs, I guess. But what I wanted to show is that if you this is a bundt pan. If you have a pan like this, I don't bake, but this is actually my mom's, who lives around the corner, so I thought I'd show you guys. The corn, if you put it in the middle here and then cut around it, it'll all end up in your bowl here. Let's try it. So instead of it going all over the place and all over your board, this works really well. You might get a few kernels popping out of the bowl, but for the most part, really fantastic, especially if you have 5 ears of corn to do like this recipe calls for, right? So if you have a pan like this on hand, it's a great time to use it. If you don't, you know, it depends on how often you're going to be using corn on the cob, slicing it like this, and it may be worth it to buy it. So they usually have these bundt pans at the grocery store. All right, so I wanted to use organic corn, so I just ended up with the frozen organic corn. We're going to put this right into our pot here with the potatoes and all the veggies. Let's see. Add this. And I'm going to do about 1.5 bags worth. And I'm going to save some of it left over for to use in a little bit. Okay. So let's stir that in. Yum. Smelling good already. We don't have any spices. That's just, well, we have garlic, celery, and onion. If you wanted to, you could add mushrooms here as well. That'd be great. All right. Let's see. I don't know if I missed anything. Okay, next up is the base to our soup, and that's going to be actually just water is going to be my base today, but you could use vegetable broth, a homemade vegetable broth, which is super easy to make. I actually need to get in a better habit of saving all my scraps so I can make broth. If you don't have, if you're, for whatever reason, not having very many scraps to put into a broth, you can freeze those scraps and put them in the freezer, and then take them out when you have enough to, or you have the time to make the broth. In the Instant Pot, they can be done in 10 minutes. So put all your veggies and your water in the Instant Pot, set the timer to 10 minutes, and you've got broth. It'll take a little bit longer for the pressure to come down, but we're just going to use water. So let's do 2 cups of water here. Actually, I'm going to do 3 cups of to into my soup to get it cooking. We've got the veggies nice and tender, and then I'm going to do another 2 cups right into the blender. So I got my heat back up at high to bring that to a boil. And another 2 cups of water. If you don't have, so we have options here. I said water or vegetable broth, but if you want this to be a creamy soup and you're open to it, you can use a non-dairy milk. Soy milk would work great. You want to be careful with the nut milks. Although my sister makes it with coconut milk and she loves it. So definitely any plant-based milk will work depending on your preference. But my preference, instead of using milks, is just to use the whole nuts. So I blend nuts with water, and in this case I would do cashews. So even just a 3/4 a cup or 1/2 cup of the cashews, which is what the recipe calls for, is 1/2 cup of the cashews put into this, into the water here, would work really well for extra creaminess and richness. But you don't have to do that. So I'm actually going to, I want to leave it out completely today. Okay, so we're going to do this without the nuts. I've got my water here, and then we're going to add in first a bell pepper. We have a large bell pepper here, and I'm just going to slice off a quarter of it and put that quarter into the pot here, or into our blender. And then our seasonings. So we've got some white wine vinegar, a rice vinegar will work, apple cider vinegar. We're just going to do a tablespoon. Like I said earlier, nutritional yeast is also an option. I'm not having nutritional yeast right now, or at least trying to minimize that, to avoid it. It affects me. Kind of my brain, I think, and even my throat. But I have sensitivities. I'm actually allergic to MSG, and oh my gosh, this is a whole topic. But nutritional yeast is a great transitional food. Some doctors love it, some are not fans, but you have to see how it makes you feel, okay? And that may change based on your journey. But we'll definitely have another talk about that in much more detail, because I love talking about glutamate and MSG and all of that. So back to our spices. We've got a little bit of cayenne, so we're just going to do a pinch of cayenne here, and smoked paprika. And if you like a spicy soup, you can do more cayenne, or red pepper flakes if you don't have the cayenne. And the smoked paprika, I'm putting in a 1/4 teaspoon, but I know some people love smoked paprika, and if you want to do more, you can by all means do that. 1/2 teaspoon or even 1 teaspoon would be great. My last herb I don't have out. Let's see. Got thyme here. So we've also got a teaspoon of thyme. Other herbs would work great, or if you just have an Italian seasoning even. But thyme is really simple. You can't, it's harder to overdo it. So if you want to do a little bit more, you can. If you do something like rosemary, you just need a touch because it's so strong. All right, we have, my cooktop is electric, yes. I'm gonna stir my soup too. I'll show you here. So we added 3 cups of water here, and it's not even covering the entire pot. So we might need to add a little bit more, but I've got the liquid in our blender right now, and that should be enough. So you want to make sure that until we add that you're definitely stirring to make sure that everything's cooking evenly, because the potatoes sitting on top, they don't have that moisture like the bottom ones. All right. A little bit of black pepper now. And we've got 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, finely ground black pepper. You can always add the freshly ground on top, but I recommend just sticking with the fine black pepper for the base of the soup. All right, now we're just going to blend this up. Okay, my lid here. Oh, one other thing though, we have pepper in my eye. We have some potatoes and corn to add to this to make it creamy. All right, I'll show you this blended. Okay, so blending this up, you didn't get much creaminess. You've got that red color from the bell pepper, or orange, I guess, but there's no creaminess because we didn't add the nuts. So what you need to do here is wait for the potatoes to cook, and a little bit of corn. You can just add a couple ladles from the soup pot right into the blender and blend it all up. I'm actually going to pour some of this into the pot now though, so that we just have a little bit more liquid in there covering the potatoes so they'll cook even faster. Okay. See, I'm going to put some back into this blender to blend again, so I just left some of the broth at the bottom so that we make sure we have enough liquid to easily blend that all together. All right, so look at our soup here again. Now this has just got to simmer for probably another 20 minutes. Depends on how soft and tender you want your potatoes to be, but we'll check it again. So right now I'm going to chop up my bell pepper so that I can add the rest of the bell pepper at the end of our cooking time. Fabian says, how do you like electric versus gas? You know, I actually don't have a preference one way or the other. I moved so much in general. As a kid, I was never in a home for more than 3 years, and then from 18 on, I haven't been in a home for more than a year, aside from the one spot in Santa Rosa. I was there for 3 years, Plant Street, my culinary gym. But aside from that, from 18 to 35, I have moved every single year. So I've been very familiar, had a lot of experience with gas and electric, and never stuck with one for so long that I really fell in love with it. I was just used to going back and forth all the time. So what I can tell you though is I love induction stovetops because they heat up so fast and they cool down really fast as well. So if I had when I design my own home someday, I would love to design a kitchen, my own kitchen, I would put in an induction stovetop. All right, this bell pepper, we're just gonna save this till the end. And I'm gonna chop this a little bit finer. I like my bell pepper a little bit crunchy, so I add it at the end. It's a little bit more nutritious as well. So and then the red bell pepper adds great color to this dish. So don't go with a yellow bell pepper, and I never use green bell pepper because most of the time it's just a non-ripe bell pepper. No. All right. Oh, someone's wishing for purple sweet potatoes. I'm not sure if that was in response to others, but the sweet potatoes in this recipe would be fantastic as well. I was thinking that actually, and I'm going to be serving this to my parents, and my dad is not a fan of sweet potatoes. Otherwise, I was planning to do the sweet potato tonight. Try that out for you. So you can use other types of potatoes, absolutely. And this is boiling, got a strong boil on it, so I'm going to turn my stove down to medium. We want it to be a strong simmer or a light boil. All right, the mixture of potatoes too would be awesome. Just having more color, more variety. So, any other questions, you guys? I'm just waiting for these things. Let's take out the tempeh and flip it so that we get an even consistency. I'm gonna push my pepper to the side. And do this. So, smells good. The tempeh here, so I'm just gonna flip this, like I said, and just use my fingers. They're not too hot. See how they're browning up like that nicely? And I don't know exactly when we put this in, but it's probably been 10, 12 minutes. We're going to put them back in so they brown on the other side. And then if we want them a little extra crispier, we can put them in the air fryer or just turn up the temperature on the oven too. If you take it to like a broil, you can crisp them in the oven a little bit. All right, we're back in. And I added, oh, I didn't mention, when I blended all of that up, it's in the recipe, when I blended the marinade, I also added miso. Miso adds more umami because we're you know, this is an alternative to bacon, and bacon has a lot of umami and very meaty, savory, and the tempeh is savory and it's delicious, but it doesn't have that bacon feel. So a little bit extra umami from miso is just to help with that. But if you want to leave that out, you can, because there is salt in it, but it's fermented soybeans, so there's actually beneficial properties to having the miso. If you don't want to do the miso and you'd rather do tamari or soy sauce, I recommend tamari because it's gluten-free, or coconut aminos because it's also, not, tamari is gluten-free, coconut aminos would be gluten-free and soy-free, but they both have a lot of salt in them. But I just mentioned that because it's important to learn what works for you, and if you are working with your family and they're not totally on board, sometimes it's helpful to have some options that are a little bit richer, and although they may not be what you want to do, if that could be an option to for your family members to put on top of this dish for them to enjoy it more, then by all means, you don't got to do that, but I would recommend doing what you can to, I don't know, it's a toss-up. I was going to say doing what you can to please everybody, but at the same time, you got to pay attention to your own food and not worry about theirs. But you know what I'm saying. You want your family and friends to be enjoying your plant-based meals too, because in the long run, the more we're eating plants, the more we're all going to feel better, and don't you want that for everyone? So, red or white miso? I might have used red once or twice because a recipe called for it, but for the most part I use a white miso. Sometimes I end up with a brown miso because the white isn't available, but the brown is much richer, and so if you use a brown miso over when a recipe calls for white or yellow miso, then you just want to use less of it because it's a lot more concentrated. Red, I would imagine, is a lot more concentrated as well, but I don't know the difference between the red. It might just be a different bean. It might be a different bean instead of soybeans, but you'd have to check the label for that. And they do make miso with different bases. Instead of soybeans, you can find ones with different beans and ones with different grains, because a lot of times rice is added and sometimes you'll find other grains. So if you can have miso in your diet, definitely kind of get into it and experiment with the different ones. Diane, yes, I've been in the Pacific Northwest. I was in Seattle for 5 years before moving to California. I went to Bastyr University, so that's north of Seattle, and loved it. Also lived in Kirkland and in Seattle. Let's see. Oh, Shirley was freezing up a little bit on you, and I don't see anyone else that said that, so hopefully it is just you. It seems to, I've got great internet here, so hopefully it's good for everyone else. Okay, so if I missed any of your questions, you got to ask again. The tempeh bits in general, our plant-based foods without salt added can last 5 to 7 days in the fridge. It really, maybe less. It depends on how hardy your item is. Like salad greens are not going to last long in the fridge, but tempeh, and tempeh is fermented, so that is even more supportive to its preservation. So the tempeh bits will last, I'd say, at least 7 days, probably more like 10 or even 14 days in the fridge. But the quality, the taste of it might decline. So I never let my food go that long in the fridge because I know the quality declines. Even if things will last that long, the taste declines. So I try to stay up on using what's in the fridge as soon as possible. And you know, some of these things you might want to do in large batches, and that you might be thinking you could do a whole bunch of this and save it for longer. But it's really easy to do. It's just a matter of getting into the kitchen and doing these things so that they become more habitual. And it's also meditative to be in the kitchen. You just got to make a little bit of time for it. But how do you get on the email list? The link is in the description. You sign up for the dressings e-cookbook and you'll get my free dressings ebook, and you'll get on our email list so you get notifications about these videos in the future and everything else that's happening here at the Culinary Gym. I didn't do jalapeno. Did I mention jalapeno somewhere? I might, if it's, optional jalapeno, you could add one. It is still, I left it in the instructions. I was rewriting this recipe actually. I had more of a Southwest corn chowder, which I just prefer the this version a little more traditional without the beans. You can always add beans if you want to, and of course the jalapeno, but I'm trying to think actually about my cookbook. I'm just going off and rambling now. We're waiting for this, our soup to cook. We'll check it in a minute. But I'm thinking more about my cookbook, which is, hopefully we'll have one out next fall. But refining the recipes I have so that we don't have a whole bunch of the same similar recipes, and we have go-to favorites. So, frozen, organic red miso is made from soybeans. It is still made from soybeans. What makes it red? I'm curious. If someone wants to Google that. So we're gonna check our potatoes on the stove top. Here, we grab a fork. First stir this. Yum. See, it's nice and thick. The base isn't thick, but the stock is thick because so much. All right, the potatoes are nice. We're perfect. They can cook a little bit longer, but they're great to add in to our blender here. So I'm gonna get a big ladle out, and we'll put a couple ladles into, let's see, do a little more. You can do more or less into the blender depending on how creamy you want it and how much of the chunky potato and corn you want. So let's blend this up now. My lid is here. Switch. Now I need a little like a handheld clicker to go back and forth between the cameras. All right. I wanted to check in with you guys too. Just in general, how are you guys doing with this world right now we're living in? Our stay-at-home how's it all treating you, and how's your food doing? Are you finding that you're enjoying cooking a lot more? Or is it hard, you eating out or ordering out? I'm just curious about your experience with all of this. It's been really helpful for me not to be tempted by some of the things that I might normally be tempted by, going out to eat with friends and things like that. So it's been really great from that perspective. But there is so much happening even outside of the coronavirus. Look at how creamy that is. So we're going to pour this right into our stovetop. But yeah, there is so much happening, and I am getting swept up in so much of the media, not mainstream media. What I want to share is that if you are paying attention to mainstream media only, that I urge you to look at other sources, because there are so much happening beneath the coronavirus and even Black Lives Matter. Two very important issues those are, but there is a lot more happening and it's not being talked about. So I said I wasn't really going to get into politics on my show here and focus on the food, because that's what you guys show up for, but there's so much weighing heavy on my heart, and it's really become a hot topic in my home, all of these things that are going on. And so I can't help but just urge you to open your eyes, and if you're not already paying attention to some of these things, please do. So back to our soup now. We have stovetop here. Pour this in. And I'm going to turn the heat down to low. See how creamy this is now without adding any nuts whatsoever. So if you want this to be a very light dish, obviously the potato and corn is a little bit heartier, but if you want it to be lighter in calories and a little lighter feel as well when you're eating it, then you can just blend up some of those corn and potatoes. So I'm going to let this simmer for another 5-10 minutes, and we will add in, we can add in the bell pepper right now as it simmers. So there we go. A scraper. All right. Mix that in. And our last ingredient we have here, look how pretty that is. You see that red color? The red color is brighter too when you add the peppers at the end rather than the beginning of the cooking time. All right. We have, like I said, one more ingredient, our chives. So just got, oh, I wish I had a big garden. We made a garden at my parents' house around the corner, and I just don't have a green thumb. But that's like a goal to make gardening a hobby. I want to be more outside. So how many people here have a garden or are doing some gardening, even if it's just windowsill gardening, growing herbs, maybe some chives, basil? I do have some basil here. So chop up, okay, you can see just small diced pieces. And actually folding these chives, I didn't expect to do them all, but now that I know I am, I should have folded them first in half and then you cut through more at once. awesome. Phoebe, I agree with you. Cynthia says, I'm cooking about the same, not eating out a lot. And a relative. Good. So lots of comments here. Thank you guys for posting. I actually, I read through these comments afterwards. I try to, if I don't get to, like now, I'm not going to get to all of your comments, but I do appreciate you sharing. So I'm putting all of this chives into our pot here. And these could be left if you wanted to leave a little bit extra for garnish at the end, so you can sprinkle it right on top of the dish, because it does make a difference to have a beautiful presentation. Then I'm going to stir in the rest of these. And light herbs like that, chives, or if you wanted to use cilantro, if you wanted to do a Southwest style with the black beans, you could do cilantro, but put these fresh light herbs on at the end, or in the pot at the end. You don't want to overcook these in the beginning, so that's why we leave them for the end. And this is actually, it's basically done. We're just letting it simmer a little bit and all the flavors blend together. Okay, and I will take out our tempeh now as well. Ooh, perfect. So, look at this tempeh. Oh, thanks guys. I have so many. Look forward to reading all your comments. I can't get through them all now, but fresh herbs blooming. They are still okay to use if the flower's going, if you get a flower, but as far as optimizing the growth of them, that's a question you'll have to Google or ask someone here. Maybe someone else knows about the blooming, but they're still edible. Raymond asks about learning to handle a knife, a chef's knife. Cooking classes are great, so just being here, but I do try to make these Delicious Living episodes. I am trying to make them a little bit faster, so we're not going over knife skills in detail. If you want a great introduction to knife skills, I would recommend, like a little heat on my elbow there. Cold water. I would recommend PC 101. Plant-Based Cooking 101 is my online cooking course, 6-week cooking course. You get a great introduction to plant-based cooking, and with lots of tips and things I've learned over the last 10 years. So it's not just a beginner's course. There's actually a lot of detail for people that might have been doing this for longer but don't feel like they have a very thorough understanding of the plant-based cuisine and they're just relying on the basics. You might really enjoy that course. It's on the website, Plant-Based Cooking 101, and the first module we go deep into knife skills. So you would love that. Raymond, if you are interested, check out the website, and it's a lifetime access. So you get 6-week program plus weekly Q&As as well. I'm adding to that. They're not live, they're recorded Q&As from past versions of the course, and you get a lifetime access to it. So there's also a 30-day refund guaranteed. If anyone is interested, check that out, please. I'd love to support you guys further. Let's see. If you're using dried herbs, you want to add them at the beginning of your cooking time, because the dried herbs will diffuse, the flavor will diffuse over the period of cooking them, and they're not as delicate as the fresh herbs. So I would add like the thyme. We actually did add the thyme earlier in the cooking process than the fresh herbs, but you can add it even at the very beginning, would be fine. Reba, thank you. She says the course improved your knife skills. And Linda, thanks. Yes. Robert, I actually moved. That's why I moved, was to be closer to family. So it is really important to be near people you love right now. And be connecting with them, even if it's over the internet, like we're doing right now too. So I'm so glad you guys are here. And the tempeh, oh yeah, we're gonna get to the tempeh right now. I was just looking through your questions. So tempeh, behind me here, we can break this up into little crumbles now. You can do the crumbles in the beginning if you want to. Crumble them all up in the beginning. See, we just kind of break these apart with your fingers. You could chop them up with a knife if you wanted to. But if you want kind of more random crumbled pieces, you could do it like this. And if you crumble them in the beginning, actually, or partway, crumble them in the beginning, you'll have more coating of the coloring will be all over the little bits, right? But if you crumble them in the beginning, they'll get too tiny. You'll have tiny little pieces like this. And so my choice was to just do it this way. But you guys can play with it and decide what works best for you. Now what you could do, not like I said, put these into the air fryer. But what I would do if you're going to put these into the air fryer is crumble them first and then do that. But you want to be careful not to have too small of crumbles because you don't want anything sticking to the air fryer. And if you get too small of things, they might kind of stick. So here, let's show you. Oh, how about this? Oh, Lorna, that is so sweet. Thank you. We're going to go over to the stovetop. Oh, Linda, lavender oil. I don't have any lavender oil. Oh, I do. I do have lavender oil. I've been using it to sleep with, actually. Lavender oil is a great one for relaxing you at bedtime, and I will put some on my little burn there. So here, let's see. Are you going to see me here? Going a little closer. We have my Instant Pot here. I've got a basket at the top. This basket came with this lid called the Milky, and we're going to put these little bits right into the basket. Okay. You can do more. I'm just doing some right now to get it going and show you. We'll put it into that. There's a rack in there as well that came with the Milky lid. You put the basket on top of the rack. Then you put this down and you close the back handle. It turns on and we can turn the temperature up to 450 and could you go higher, 475, and we'll put the time to 5 minutes and we'll let that go. So we'll actually, I don't want them to go too long. Turn this to 4 minutes, 3 minutes, and see how it is. Okay. So, not too bad, not too hard to do that, right? And if you are going to be having this in a few days, if you're not going to be eating it all right now, say you wanted to make some of these tempeh strips early, make them into the bits, you could make the strips ahead of time and then just heat those bits up right before you're going to use them so that you have a hot tempeh crumble to add to your dish. Okay. The lid over the Instant Pot is called the Milthy, Mealthy, meal and healthy mixed together. And it is an air fryer that just sits at the top of the Instant Pot. So it's fantastic. And I think the Milthy actually has a pressure cooker as well. If you don't have the Instant Pot yet, you could just buy the Milthy. Or vice versa, my apologies. I don't know if the Milthy has a pressure cooker, but the Instant Pot now has an air fryer lid that you can use. So you could do the Milthy or the Instant Pot or any other air fryer you have. And that pan could be put into into an oven as well. You could have just turned the oven up to a higher temperature, 450 if you can go that high, and cooked the tempeh, the crumbles, for a little bit longer. Only a few minutes. You don't want to burn them. Alternatives to red pepper if you're avoiding nightshades. How about mushrooms? That's what I would do, is mushrooms. And also, if you are avoiding tempeh, if you're avoiding soybeans, you can do mushrooms, like a shiitake mushroom would be great as an alternative to the tempeh. You could use that same marinade and put it over the shiitake mushrooms. I want to do a whole class about bacon. The only problem is I was never a big fan of bacon because I went plant-based I don't know. I just wasn't a big fan of meat overall. So I wouldn't be the best for comparisons, but I want to do a class on bacon and show you the different options that you could use, because you could do eggplant, mushrooms, or even coconut would be a great option. So I'm gonna serve up our soup here and grab a drink of water too. Excuse me. All right. Sorry about that. Something in my throat. So here, ooh, they got really crispy. I'm glad we only did 3 minutes. Here's our little tempeh bits. So just turn this around here. I don't know what that was. We got my pretty soup. Oh, we'll sprinkle on some of these bits first. And some green chives. And a little black pepper. Man, sorry. What do you guys think? Yum. So I know it's a hot dish, and we're in the middle of the summer, but if you guys want a nice, warm, comforting meal, whether it's for breakfast or dinner, this is a great option and a great combo too. These tempeh bits could be used for anything. Not anything, but they can go over salad, other soups, even over a baked potato, loaded potato. So we'll have to do a version of this with our nachos, like make a nacho meat like this would be great as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy this, and I will see you next Thursday for Delicious Living Live. But before then, Saturday, I'll be on Chef AJ's show. So YouTube at 11 a.m. on Chef AJ's channel. And we'll be making Caribbean. We'll be doing a red bean stew, Caribbean salad with sweet chili dressing, and a tropical nice cream. Actually, what do you guys think? Tropical nice cream, which is ice cream, right, without any of the dairy, or coconut banana cake, banana coconut cake. What's your vote? Let me know in the comments what your vote is. The banana coconut cake would take a lot longer, so I'm not sure I'll be able to squeeze that in with the other recipes. And I was thinking I'd just give you guys the recipe without demoing it, but I'm just curious what you're thinking. Let's take a bite of the soup too. Oh, I should take a picture of it too, but I'll show you. All right, let me tell you how it is. It's delicious. Really is. I know I'm biased, but the consistency of the broth, the base, is not as creamy as when I made it with the cashews, but this way I could eat a lot more of it. Without the cashews, it just feels a little bit lighter. So something to keep in mind, whether you want to do the cashews or not, it's up to you. Oh, you guys are back and forth. So many people said nice cream, then the cake. Oh, my apologies. I'm not sick. I just got something in my throat. The cake, maybe we'll have to see. Maybe I'll even ask AJ what her preference is. If I don't do the cake on Thursday or on Saturday, maybe we'll do it next Thursday. So we'll do it either way. All right, until then, I hope you guys have a delicious evening. Have fun in the kitchen and stay calm, stay peaceful. And yeah, love yourself and love others. That's what I gotta say. It's all about love. All right, I love you. See you next time. Bye.